Hey everyone, do you love warm coffee in the morning as much as I do? It's so relaxing. Many people prefer it over tea. Although, have you ever wondered whether or not your coffee habits are bad for you? Yeah, it's possible that you might be drinking too much. It may cause some health problems. From insomnia to diarrhea, your body gives you many indications. In this video, we'll talk about all of them and more. Number 1. Jitters. One of the major ingredients of coffee is caffeine. It helps make your brain more active. While this helps you feel refreshed early in the morning, it does have a few downsides. One of the most notable is the jitters. If you do get jitters, you'll feel that your body is shaking. You'll feel very nervous and anxious over problems that can be solved easily. This is because in its quest to make your brain more active, caffeine also speeds up your central nervous system. Yeah, it makes your central nervous system work faster. At times, you'll get a little jumpy. It can also ruin your mood, making you feel very cranky. If you wish to find any type of relief from this, we would suggest that you switch to another drink. If that wasn't enough to convince them, don't worry, we've just begun. Before we continue, check out our video, 5 foods to avoid if you have anxiety. Alright, let's continue. Number 2. Headaches. Anyone who says heartbreak is painful has probably never had a serious headache. Why do we feel a headache? When the arteries of your blood vessels in your head become narrow, they create pressure. This pressure results in pain. Caffeine is also one of the many causes of headache. Although this is more of the user's fault than the product. If you can manage the control of your caffeine intake, you won't have this problem. In case you aren't able to do that, you can try balancing it out by drinking plenty of water. Keep in mind, controlling caffeine is an easier option. Remember, this is the caffeine trying to make your brain more active. Unfortunately, in its process, there are casualties. These casualties are the blood vessels and the arteries in your head. So if I were you, I'd refrain from drinking too much of this beverage. Instead, switch to something like green tea or smoothie. In the long run, these drinks help to replenish your energy and improve your metabolism. Alright, on to the next point. Number 3. Insomnia. Earlier in this video, we talked about insomnia. Well, we're going to elaborate more about it in this point. As we mentioned earlier, insomnia is one of the indications of having too much coffee. You can blame it on the caffeine once again. Caffeine is an antidepressant. It stimulates your brain and keeps you from falling asleep. What's worse, it stays in the system for several hours. Now just imagine a person who's had about 7 to 8 cups of coffee in a day. What would happen to him? Yeah, you guessed correctly. The brain would be too stimulated to fall asleep. This will continue for a few days, eventually developing into a full-fledged issue. Unfortunately, insomnia also comes with headaches and fatigue. So maybe you should cut down on your consumption just to be safe. On that note, we move on to the next point. Number 4. Stomach problems. There are many problems that can be caused by coffee. 2 of the most common ones are stomach cramps and diarrhea. If you have coffee on an empty stomach, you may get stomach cramps. This is because coffee increases the section of the stomach acid that helps to digest food. On an empty stomach, there isn't much present to digest. In such a case, the secreted acid in your stomach might cause some pain. Similarly, when you consume too much coffee, there's an overflow of stomach acids. These acids then cause a very common problem known to everyone: diarrhea. This is why we wouldn't recommend more than 3 cups of coffee in a day. Since we're talking so much about coffee, you can also check out our video on drinking cold brew coffee does this to your body. Anyway, let's continue. Number 5. Stress and depression. For something that comes with an antidepressant, coffee really has a way of making you sad. How does it manage to do that? Well, once again, your culprit is the caffeine. Remember in the earlier part of the video we said how caffeine speeds up your central nervous system? Well, it's the same thing that causes an overload of stress. This stress makes you more anxious and eventually leads to depression. Even in a study, it was found that people who drank coffee regularly had higher blood pressure. The same people also reported higher levels of stress hormones. This is why we wouldn't recommend having too much. Apart from that, we also wouldn't suggest that you leave it. Moderate consumption of coffee is okay. Just make sure that you aren't drinking too many cups. On that note, check out our video of how coffee affects your weight. Number 6. Heart palpitations. Have you ever felt your heartbeat so fast you thought it would break out of your ribcage? If that's the case, maybe you should think about your coffee consumption, although coffee is not the only cause of this problem. People who like to drink booze on the regular have this issue as well. Even smokers tend to develop heart palpitations at one point in their lives. If you happen to have any of these habits, you should consider quitting. After all, what could be more important than your life? Back to the topic of coffee. Heart palpitations happen when you overdo it with the caffeine. This leads to frequent spells of dizziness. If things get too serious, you might have to consult a doctor, so think about it. Is your love for coffee more important than your health? We aren't saying that you have to quit it altogether, just simply reduce your intake. Number 7. Hypertension. We've already mentioned in a study that regular coffee drinkers have higher blood pressure. If people continue their habit of drinking too much coffee, they'll end up with hypertension. This problem's enhanced by the coffee's effect on the nervous system. As we stated earlier, coffee's major component, caffeine, speeds up the nervous system. This increases anxiety and affects the way our heart pumps blood. When the heart starts to pump at a faster rate, it affects your arteries and your blood vessels. Here's the major problem in all this. If not stopped, it could lead to a stroke. Don't worry though, it's not inevitable. It's merely a possibility. We wouldn't suggest that you take that risk though. It's always better to be safe than sorry. Once again, we aren't saying that coffee can only harm your body. In fact, you can even check out our video where we talk about the health benefits of coffee. Alright, it's time for us to move on to the next point. Number 8. Fatigue. We generally drink coffee to feel fresh and energetic. One of the downsides of drinking too much is fatigue. Don't worry, we'll elaborate. Once again, the enemy is, you guessed it, caffeine. You see, when caffeine improves your mood and energy levels, it's only a temporary boost. This temporary boost comes at a cost. The following day, after you get up from sleeping, you'll feel even more tired than you did the previous day. This cycle continues until you develop full-blown fatigue. In case you're wondering, it's possible to avoid it altogether by maintaining your caffeine intake. Unfortunately, that would come at another cost. I'm talking about stomach problems, insomnia, and all those other wonderful things that we mentioned in the video. The best option to avoid coffee's rebound effect is by drinking it at a moderate level. Moderate consumption of coffee will make sure that you don't fall prey to fatigue. You'll also be able to maximize the energy boost that you get from it. Which of these indications were you always aware of? Do you drink a lot of coffee? Let us know in the comment section below. We'd love to hear from you. Enjoyed this video? Hit like, share, and subscribe to Bestie. Wait! What kind of Bestie would we be if we didn't tell you about our other awesome videos? Go ahead, choose the left or right video and enjoy.